Hey everybody, my name is Shibby. I'm an esports colorcaster and Celestial rank player in Marvel Rivals, and in today's video, we are going to go over the Season 5.5 patch notes that just released. Now, this patch is a little light on changes, but there were some pretty big adjustments to some of the heroes that I think will shake up the meta a lot. I don't want to keep you waiting any longer, so let's get into it. We are going to start off with the Vanguard class, and it's a relatively light load of changes overall. I think this is due to the fact that Rogue is releasing, and they're trying to get as good data as possible with her without making too many changes to the overall Vanguard hero pool. I think the fact that they want to understand what her best pairings are, what she's good into, who are her counter matchups, I think it makes sense for them, at least in this specific patch for 5.5, to not heavily adjust any of the Vanguards and really hard buff or hard nerf any of them. This doesn't mean that it's an insignificant patch, because both Peni and Emma did receive durability nerfs. They lost 50 HP to their total HP pools, which actually is a significant difference. Especially if you're a tank, you understand if you play Vanguard that you are taking a lot of that damage. You are frontlining pretty consistently. Most of the time, DPS and another tank, or sometimes all of the DPS and all the tanks, are dumping as many abilities in you as possible to burst you down so they can push in. That extra 50 health sometimes was the difference maker between you living and dying here. And the fact that they made both Peni and Emma a lot easier to kill, I think is interesting. I think the fact that it's also an indirect nerf to flanking Peni might be able to curb that, because there was a lot of instances where Peni would be able to flank around, set up on like a health pack, and she'd be really difficult to kill because of the overhealth and the healing and the speed that she gets from her nest. So I think they want to try to take something away because they gave her so much last pass, as well as NetEase are pretty much indicating that, hey, we want Emma to stop being a staple pick in the Marvel Rivals game. I think for a while, they've been trying to do this, at least these past couple patches, because she's been so good. She's been pretty much pick banned since release. They want the overall Marvel Rivals player base to try out other Vanguards, to try out other combinations, because a lot of the time you could pick Emma and you wouldn't really feel bad about picking her, right? She was almost always good in any situation. Moving on to the more interesting changes in the buffs here, the Thor change is really funny. The fact that you have unrestricted movement in your hammer charge, it means you can kidnap people now, right? Because when you run into them, you can hard turn left, you can make a U-turn, and you can kidnap Strange, Magneto, potentially some other DPS or even supports into your team, and you don't have to fly behind them or get behind them to try to do it. You can actually charge your hammer in front of them and make a massive U-turn after you hit them and put them into your team. It's not as crazy of a kidnap as obviously something like Wolverine or Angela, but it does increase his playmaking ability. On top of this, it indirectly increases his survivability. Sure, you're not getting any extra overhealth or anything like that, but the ability to change your movement mid-flight will cause the Thor players to be a lot more elusive, right? They'll find creative angles to escape some of the stickiest of situations. Moving on to the Thing, these changes actually just make him a better brawl hero overall, right? Increasing the damage from 8 to 10% max health is pretty significant. To put that in perspective, it is an extra 13 damage per haymaker on something like a Doctor Strange, who's a 675 health hero. Now, I know 13 damage doesn't sound crazy, but that extra damage allows him to hit onto multiple members, right? Haymaker is not just a single target ability. It is an AoE that you can hit onto multiple tanks. So the extra damage, the increase in damage, actually allows him to build his ultimate faster, which is something he's needed for a while. I feel like Thing has always had a little bit of trouble building his ultimate, especially with the changes he got recently. And the fact that he now does more damage is just nice. He's pretty much needed it. And I think we are heading into a pseudo brawl meta. So I think Thing should be meta coming in. Like Rogue Thing frontline could be something that we see popping out in the beginning of the season. On top of this, they also did increase the grounding zone, or the duration of the grounding zone, from his Yancey Street charge. Bumping it up to 3 to 5 seconds is nice, but you can't just walk out of it anymore. Like, you actually have to think about, hey, when am I going to go in if I'm like a Magic or a BP or something like that? Having it stay 5 seconds as well, or lingering that long, allows his supports to play in that grounding zone, right? A lot of the time what you do is you try to bait out the Thing, use his Yancey Street charge, and be like, okay, 3 seconds are done, let me redive, let me re-hit. But now that you have to wait 5 seconds, it does delay, and it does give your supports and your team more time to react, because now they're like, oh, I can't go in because it's a 5-second lingering grounding zone. I think this is really significant. What does this do for the overall Vanguard class in Season 5.5? I still think Mag is going to be the best tank in the game, especially with Rogue dropping right next to him. He is one of the perfect pairings for her, right? Because the bubble will allow her to play in melee range more aggressively and add to her survivability. Put this on top of the new Gambit team up that comes both with Magneto and Rogue. I don't ever see a situation where you won't pick Rogue, Mag, and Gambit if they're up all three together. I do have a feeling that some of those guys are going to get banned out. Maybe Gambit, maybe Rogue, maybe both of them. But yeah, I just don't think it's going to move the needle too much in terms of what the best tanks are in the game. Like, we are swapping out maybe Emma for Rogue, and that's about it. Just wanted to pop in and thank everyone that's shown me so much love over this past year on my Marvel Rivals content journey. My goal this year was to hit 1,000 subscribers before the year end. We are now cresting up upon 1,200, so you guys have blown that out of the water, which is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone that has liked, commented, subscribed. Obviously, that means so much to me, and if you've enjoyed the video up to this point, do all that jazz. If you guys missed the other announcement, I guaranteed that I'll be uploading 2 videos a week moving forward. One will be Wednesday and one will be Sunday. Those will be the guaranteed upload days, as well as I'm going to try to sneak in a 3rd video as my schedule permits. Last week was the first instance of me uploading 2 videos. I released a video on Mr. Fantastic, as well as a video on fixing the ban system and the banning phases, and you guys really showed a lot of love to those, so thank you so much. Let's get back into the video. Moving on to the Duelist, starting from top to bottom, I think the blade buffs are nice and was needed a long time ago. Quite honestly, he should have probably been released in this state. Like, realistically, being able to be healed more in an awakened state should allow him to kind of fulfill those drain DPS fantasies that I think Marvel Rivals has for him, because he has that like vampire part to his kit. But ultimately, there's just no reason to really pick Blade over the other close to mid-range DPS in the game. Like, you're never going to be picking Blade over Bucky, right? Which is like a direct example of a very good close to mid-range DPS. I would have loved to see NetEase go a little bit harder on the blade buffs, make his ultimate stronger. I feel like giving it a slowing effect or a grounding effect would be really nice, because right now when Blade ultimates, you don't have to really do anything. You don't really even have to match with the support ultimate. You can actually just walk out of it either by moving left or right, and it's pretty bad. It also puts Blade in a pretty precarious situation. He has to ult past the enemy team, and it makes him super, super vulnerable. So maybe like giving him a repositioning tool or something like that would be nice. The only time I'm ever scared of a Blade ult is only if I hear like a Groot ult or like a Doctor Strange ult before it. Like, that's really the only reason. I'm like, oh, now I'm getting comboed, now I'm gonna die. But even sometimes you can like Invisible Boundary, you can Gambit ult out of it, you can Luna ult out of it. Like, even the combo isn't the craziest thing in the world. So I would argue buff Blade more. Hopefully he receives some more stuff in season 6. Quickly going over the Phoenix change, getting a little bit more health on the ultimate is nice, but I just don't think it was needed. It feels really odd buffing Phoenix so soon, considering she dominated the meta when she released, and she was just a better flat out pick than Hela. Obviously now Hela is a little bit better, and I think, you know, DPS just have to be more coordinated when looking up to kill the Phoenix ultimate. Like, I don't think the 100 health is super, super significant. If you have like a Punisher Hela, or if you have like a Hela Namor and you hear the Phoenix ulting, you hear the Endsong Inferno, if it's not getting bubbled or anything like that, you can just shoot it down. Like, 100 extra health is not super significant as long as you're landing your shot. So really weird buff. I don't think it's going to change too much. Like, Phoenix is still fine. She still was like the 2nd best hit scan in the game. This doesn't really change that. I think a change that will be overlooked by a majority of the community is Punisher's assault rifle damage going up again. Now, I know it doesn't seem crazy on the surface, but a flat damage buff to his gun means that he builds his ultimate faster. Remember, the original damage of his assault rifle when he released was 18 per bullet. Then they buffed it to 19. Then he got kind of meta, so they nerfed him a little bit, but they didn't touch his AR damage. They are now bumping it up again and are slowly turning the knob higher and higher. I think he's going to be a major beneficiary to stuff like damage boost. When you factor that in, stuff like Storm and Mantis, that 20 damage instead of 19 or 18 is going to be pretty significant. As well as, he's just a better matchup into tanks like Groot, Thing, Hulk, and even Rogue. They're going to be super tough to play into Punisher from like mid to long range. He is just going to be a more lethal threat to them, as well as being a more lethal threat to flyers, which I suspect will be coming back a little bit more in Season 5.5, given the changes that are happening to both Human Torch and Ultron. Now, NetEase gutted Human Torch over the course of the past couple patches because of how strong he was and how meta he was at one point. They continuously decreased his pellet damage, right? He originally had 7, then they nerfed it all the way down to 5, and they're bringing it back up to 5.5 to see what they can do with his damage. The fact that they also decrease the pellet spread will allow him to more easily go for crits, but the damage fall off being lower forces him to be a lot more risky. He can't just pelt you from a mile away. They also want you to use his Blazing Blast a little bit more. probably to confirm kills, as well as weaving it into your combos. Reducing the charge speed from 3 seconds to 2.5 seconds is pretty significant, as well as increasing the damage from 40 to 45 actually probably, increases his kill potential and some of the combo windows that you used to have. Human Torch might not come back completely, and he might not be as dominant as he once was, but the fact that he is getting changes on top of Ultron, we could see a lot different compositions coming out, and flyers could be coming back sooner than you think. Now, Psylocke getting one nerf in this patch is really funny because she's just been really, really good over the past couple patches, honestly, the past couple seasons. She's never been, I think, worse than top 5, but this nerf is pretty significant. It is honestly, I think, the single highest ultimate charge increase that we've seen in a single patch. Like, usually you see like 300, 200, stuff like that, but going from 2,800 to 3,400, essentially a 600 increase in her ultimate charge cost is pretty significant. This at least nerfs the very popular shoot the tanks and build ultimate playstyle. I mean, you're still going to be doing that a little bit, but it allows players to play the neutral a little bit better and gives more room for MarvelRivals players to at least take dry fights and punish Psylocke before she builds her ultimate up so quickly. Like, a lot of the time, if you saw Groot, if you saw Doctor Strange or Emma and stuff like that, Psylocke would be farming you with her team up that she had that is now being removed with Emma. But even then, no Emma, she would still be getting ultimate super, super quick. And it felt really, really tough to fight against it. And as a tank player, you couldn't really do much other than play a shield tank, and you had to kind of rely on your DPS to take her down before she's allowed to get multiple shurikens into your body. Wolf also gets a nice quality of life change, and I think you won't get those instances now where you ult as Wolf and you're just like floating in the air for 5 seconds awkwardly. The fact that you can now target walls as well as the ground is pretty interesting. There are some cool plays you can make because there are walls and there are certain, buildings and terrain that's out in the open or like can take you down to the abyss. So if you like ult them and you target a wall that's, near a fall off or a ledge, you could probably take a whole team down with you. I think this is going to be a really funny change, and it will be sooner rather than later that we'll see a Wolverine just like ult like 3 or 4 people and charge them off the map because there's a wall somewhere randomly around the corner. Daredevil gets his survivability touched a little bit, but honestly, he's still pretty good. He's probably still the best dive hero in the game simply because his kit allows him to skip the scouting phase for dive, right? The fact that he has the wall hacks allows him to relay information to heroes like Venom or divers like Psylocke that he's paired up with. And once you find that odd man out, whether it's a support, whether it's a DPS, being able to say, hey, we're going to dive on this person because he's moving this way and just relaying that information, there's not really a whole lot of counterplay. And he was pick banned in pro play for a reason, and he was pick banned this season for a reason. He's just too damn good. So still play him, still ban him. Don't think these nerfs actually affect the needle that much for him. The Scarlet Witch changes are very interesting because the fact that she can charge her chaos energy faster means that she can spam her Chthonian bursts more frequently, right? Because it's not gated by a cooldown or anything, it's gated by how much chaos energy she has, and she builds that up by using her left click. It's a very nice ebb and flow of like when you need to spam your right clicks, how are you going to use it to burst? And the fact that she can now use those more frequently definitely increases her potent DPS or her potential DPS at times, especially if she's on like a ledge or if she's on high ground and stuff like that and like terrorizing your backline. You kind of have to go and find her and deal with her because she can burst you out a lot more frequently. The buffs to her stun, I think, are the most interesting. The fact that they are essentially increasing the projectile speed of it and removing like the delay on the spell shield means that you are going to get stunned a lot more quickly. It also makes it a more viable counter to like Doctor Strange ultimate thing, even Emma, like any sort of ultimate that has like a wind up. You can like more reliably use this stun, I think, to stop it, right? You can stop Doctor Strange ultimate before it happens if you hear it, if you're preparing for it. So I really like this change. It's a lot more skill expressive for the Scarlet Witch players, as well as the ultimate buff is really, really interesting. I originally thought the concept of her dragging you in was cool, but similar to Blade, you kind of just were able to walk out. The fact that they're increasing the speed at which you get dragged in makes it so that it's a lot more concerning. Like, you have to deal with it more immediately. You have to either CC it and save your CC for it, you have to try to kill her and burst her down, or you just end up accepting your fate. God forbid she gets like a Magneto bubble or a Doctor Strange shield or something like that. Like, giving Wanda more lethality in her ultimate is nice. I do think these changes are going to heavily skew more towards the bottom level of play, like bronze through even platinum. I think Scarlet Witch, a lot of people are going to be complaining about her even more because of these changes. But I think these are also very high elo level changes, right? I genuinely think the stun change is nice. Like I said, allows more skill expression, and just flat out increasing the amount of chaos energy that she gets from her left click will allow Scarlet Witches to at least compete with some of the other higher DPS heroes in the game. What does this do for the actual Duelist meta? I think there is a potential for less Psylocke in season 5.5, but we have to wait and see how much slower she charges her ultimate, right? The 600 bump that I talked about is one of the most significant ones we've seen. I think it's the highest we've ever seen in an individual patch, but the new team up might keep her pick rate and win rate at least the same, if not only mitigate that by a little bit. Star-Lord probably rises as well. He's been pretty solid in season 5. Like, people have been picking him back up. He's also a really good combo with Gambit. We might see it Star-Lord more if Psylocke actually does end up dropping in priority. But overall, I think the DPS meta should stay relatively the same, right? Daredevil is still the best dive hero in the game. You're still going to pair him up with stuff like Venom and Captain America. I do think there is a little bit more room for heroes like Iron Fist and Punisher, especially if Rogue is meta. Like, you're going to want to be able to punish her. Either you're going to out-brawl her with something like Iron Fist, or you're going to like massively poke her down from mid to long range with Punisher with his increased assault rifle damage. So other than that, like, yeah, a lot of changes, but nothing really crazy. I'll be happy if we see Scarlet Witch's win rate bump up a little bit, right? Like 3 to 5% would be really nice because of these changes. Now we move on to the strategist class here, and these were the changes I was talking about in the beginning of the video that would like really shake up the meta in season 5.5. Now, Gambit and Invis are receiving ultimate charge cost nerf. They're going up by 200. It makes it a lot more punishing now if you whiff your ultimate or use it in a random spot. I think Gambit's ult cycle specifically really messed up the perception of when these support ultimates were coming up, because obviously he's able to build his up very quickly, but the fact that his ultimate also increases the rate at which you are able to build your own ult, that means that if you Gambit ult after an Invis woman or a Luna Stone or something like that, they would have theirs up a lot quicker. So I think it was a much needed change. Less Gambit ultimates, but still making them fun to play is what's needed, right? You don't want a game that's just dominated by which Gambit is able to build their ultimate up first. As well as Invisible Woman, with the recent buffs that she's gotten, I think she definitely needed to be tapped down. She was getting her ult up super quick because of the changes she got to her primary, how it moves out faster, how it heals faster and stuff like that. So this should put her back in line just a little bit. I don't think the Gambit Invis support line is bad. I actually think it's still going to be very good. It just can be contested now with some of the other changes in this patch. Before we move on to Luna and Ultron though, I do want to note Loki is already starting to see some play and crop back up into triple support compositions. The buffs that he's receiving puts him back into the middle ground of where he was prior to his dominance, right? He got 100%. They moved him down to 80%, and now they're buffing him back up to 90% potency. The thing to note in that season 5 as well, literally the last patch, he got a direct healing buff. I think this plus the increase in the percentage of his potency, the 90%, should actually see a lot more play from him in the future, given that he can keep up his healing a lot more with some of the other stronger supports in the game. On top of this, Rocket ult nerf is very significant because it's a 300 cost increase. This is pretty big for support specifically, and Rocket had the really interesting ability of being able to build his ultimate up very quickly on certain maps, right? Because orbs can pass through members and provide direct healing as well as AoE healing, it was pretty common to be able to spam choke points with rocket healing, build up your ultimate, use it, and then spam it again. I think one of the more infamous maps was Clintar, especially from the defensive side. If you just shoot orbs down that main choke point, you're building your ultimate up super quickly. This also worked for the flip side if you're on the offensive for Clintar. Like, he is really good on some of those maps where there's very tight corridors, very tight, spaces where you can just spam orbs down and get that direct healing and that AoE healing. So pretty significant nerf. We will see less rocket ultim in the game overall, as well as, again, being paired up with something like Gambit. You don't want the game to be just completely dictated by which support ultimates are up all the time. NetEase could not go more than a season and a half without seeing Luna in the meta. I think it's absolutely insane that we had like a Gambit Invis meta and a Jeff and Rocket meta for a little bit, and they're like, no, Luna definitely needs it. We need to sell skins, guys. I only half joke, but let's focus on her snowball first. Reducing the windup on it as well as increasing the projectile speed makes it so that she can potentially snipe airborne targets easier and airborne ultimates, as well as jumping targets. On top of this, it just makes her fundamentally better against dive, right? Think Black Panther, Iron Fist, Magic, whatever. That move speed increase on that projectile is going to be really good, especially for those Luna players that have really good snowball accuracy percentage. There are some that hit it like 80, 70% of the time, and it feels impossible to play against as a dive hero. The other And I think insane change that she's getting. She's getting a brand new ability. They're calling it Idle Aura. And this allows her to, instead of snowflaking her teammate, she can put the snowflake on herself, and she receives a 10% increase in healing, a 10% increase in damage, and any of the healing that she does while that snowflake is on her, 10% of all that healing she applies to herself. So she can heal herself as long as she's healing her team with her snowflake. The other strategist that is getting a major change here that is going to shake up the meta in season 5.5 is going to be Ultron. Straight up, he gets 2 drones, which obviously amp his healing, which is nice, and it's going to increase how fast it takes to get his ultimate, although they did nerf that preemptively, which is really nice. The big thing is that Ultron, on top of providing bonus health to himself and his surrounding allies with the firewall and people that are in the drone range and stuff like that, they get bonus move speed and bonus damage. Triple support is back on the menu, and it has changed flavors completely. It's not the old triple support that we were used to seeing in season 5 and season 4.5. Now Ultron is coming back in, and it's a lot more lethal, because the fact that Ultron can now put his drone on his back line and then put another drone on the front line and just be able to heal both of them simultaneously is absolutely disgusting. Also, the flexibility of his firewall increases. You can, of course, use it defensively. If you're getting dove or you're taking too much damage, sure, you use the firewall, your team gets bonus health, they get the bonus move speed, they get the bonus damage as well as yourself gets it. Sure, that's really nice. But there is nothing stopping an Ultron from putting a drone on his backline and keeping it there, and then putting his drone on like a Venom or a Daredevil or a Black Panther and saying, hey, I'm going to pop this firewall preemptively. You guys are going to get bonus health. You guys are going to get bonus move speed. You guys are going to get bonus damage. And that's going to increase the survivability of those dive heroes. That's going to increase the kill potential of those dive heroes. And it's also going to make it so they're a lot more slipperier. People are going to have less time to react because of the move speed amp that you get. Using it preemptively prior to a dive would absolutely break the game. I think if Ultron gets slotted into dive compositions, it could break MarvelRivals player base in half. Like the ultimate charge cost nerf is necessary since he has those 2 healing drones, but that's not really why you're picking Ultron, right? You're picking Ultron because of the drone usage, because of how flexible he is, the damage that he can output. And mind you, again, we just saw Human Torch buffs coming in. He doesn't have to choose to just perma put his drone on Human Torch. He could just separate his drones. He has 2 of them now. I am permabanning Ultron. Like 1000%, Ultron's not getting through to my games because I don't want to deal with the triple support hell that he's going to bring into MarvelRivals. Overall, I think the Vanguard meta does not get shifted a lot due to the changes in this patch. I think it's going to be more in part because Rogue is releasing, and we're going to try to figure out what tanks pair the best with Rogue and what, matches well against her. Duelists might have a little bit more variety with the Psylocke nerfs coming in, but like Bucky didn't get any changes, Hela didn't get any changes, right? So they're still very, very dominant. We could see a little bit more Punisher because of the flat damage boost to his assault rifle, as well as a little bit more Scarlet Witch, at least in the higher levels of play. I do think she's going to see a lot more play in the lower levels, like I think Bronze through Platinum, and I wouldn't be surprised if her win rate increases pretty significantly because of the changes she received in this patch. The support meta is what's getting shaken up the most, right? Gambit Invis is still viable, still very good, but now you have other options with like Luna, Ultron, and Loki coming back in, right? If they ever get banned out, like Gambit or Invis, I wouldn't be surprised if we see like triple support Ultron, or like we see Luna Loki plus 1 more, or just Luna Loki in general comes back. But I think this change specifically and the changes that we received, it just makes more supports S tier now rather than bringing some supports down and bringing some supports up. I think like Luna, Ultron, Invis, Gambit are all going to be S tier rather than just Gambit and Invis being the 2 S tier supports in the game. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications, as that all helps me out a ton. I try and respond to every single one of the comments in my videos because I generally do appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedules to leave one, as well as I love interacting with my own community. If you want to see more of my content, I stream over on Twitch about 3 to 4 times a week, starting around 7 p.m. PST. Over there, you'll get unedited versions of my videos, as well as we go over gameplay reviews, patch notes, and you guys can ask questions in the chat, and I respond pretty quickly. If you care more for short form content, I upload daily on both YouTube Shorts and TikTok. Over there, you'll get condensed versions of my videos, as well as stream highlights and my general thoughts on the game. All of that will be in the description box below, as well as a pop-up that will show up on the right side of the screen here telling you where to go and all my handles. I really do appreciate all of you, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.